When you're choosing your new tree, don't forget to check the rootstock so you know how big that tree is going to get. Apple grafting, cutting of willow, both these jobs want to be done when the trees are dormant. With willow we're taking growth away so we can use it this year. With apples we're stitching growth together to form new trees. What is apple grafting? Basically it is taking a rootstock and the apple tree that you want to grow and it's stitching them together to create a new fruit tree of the variety you want to propagate. Simply put, it's two parts. The scion is taken from last year's growth from the apple tree itself. The rootstock determines the height and size that tree is then going to get to. The reason for grafting is to ensure that the variety of apple that you want to propagate is the variety that you're actually getting. If you just take a normal apple pip and grow it, for example from a Bramley seedling, it could well produce a tree, but what tree that is and what apple you wouldn't know because it wouldn't necessarily fall true to type. The rootstock is particularly important for small UK gardens because it means that even with a lot of these older heritage trees, you can grow a lot of varieties of apple in a small space as long as it's on the right rootstock. So for small gardens in the UK, M27 or M9 are both dwarfing stocks growing to about 6 to 8 foot high, which means that in a very small garden you can still grow an apple, particularly in a large container or in a planter, but the rootstock in the ground isn't as stable, so it may need support for a bit longer, or you may need to consider staking it in a windy spot. So with your rootstocks, M26 is a semi-dwarfing variety that will eventually get to about 10 to 12 foot in height. It can, with pruning, be kept a bit smaller, but it's a good, strong root system. MM106 is more what we used to class as a bush, so that will be 12 to 16 foot as an eventual height, but it's a more vigorous rootstock, and for trees such as Bloody Ploughman, which is the heritage tree just behind me here, with that tree it prefers to be grafted onto MM106 because the rootstock is a bit more vigorous and it supports the weight of the tree better. With the rootstocks there are several different heights. As I said before, this tree is MM106, which is bush rootstock. The smaller one just behind you there is M26, which is semi-dwarfing stock. They're the two most common ones that we tend to grow onto. All of these trees initially are trees that we'd grafted ourselves, so I know what rootstock they're on when we do them. In the UK, it tends to be the best time to do it is the rootstock buds are just about to start moving and just about to start growing. Your scion wood, ideally, want to be slightly more dormant, and that way what you're doing is you're getting the energy flowing from the rootstock up into the new scion, which is then going to form the new tree. And for us, that tends to be about the middle of February. So how do you do apple grafting? This is the rootstock that I've just potted on. We're going to trim this now because we want it to be approximately 4 to 6 inches in height. This is the variety I want to propagate. This is an apple called Bloody Ploughman, which is an old Lancashire heritage variety. So that is my cutting, or my scion. I'm just going to shorten that just above the bud again, and that is then going to be grafted onto my rootstock. You can see here with this rootstock I've prepared it with the tool that I'm using at the moment. This is a new tool that I'm trying out. So I've cut basically a nice V-shaped slot, and I've cut my scion wood, my cutting, my variety I want to grow, so that that will then slot nicely into that gap. The most important thing is that that cambium layer, the green against the green, are similar sizes, so that that junction is as tight as possible. The green cambium layer just below the bark, that's where all the activity happens. That's where the new growth for the tree is going to come from, and that is going to form with the cambium layer into the slot we've just cut into that tree. The most important thing is to make sure that all your tools are sterilised and kept clean in between moving from tree to tree or cut to cut. Once the scion has then been pushed into the V-cut that I've made into the tree, I'm then going to apply the tape and then just put a bit of protective wax over the top just to help to hold it together and keep it waterproof. And these buds in the next 4 to 6 weeks should then start breaking. Then I'm going to stand them in a sheltered spot to grow on, and then hopefully not all of them will take, but it's part of trial and error. But if they take, then this time next year we'll have 1-year-old apple trees ready for planting out or growing on, and I can then decide whether I'm going to grow them as a standard, bush or corn. This is just how we're now grafting our rootstocks for this year. Everybody's got their own different ways. Originally I'd used a knife and just done a splice cut graft, which is a more traditional cut. But this tool is meaning that I get a nice clean wedge and a nice clean cut, so it gives me more cambium layer for that to establish. If you like what we're doing, then please let us know. At the end of the day, all I'm trying to do for me is to ensure that I'm continuing these heritage trees, and we've got them available from next year and the year after, growing on, and fresh trees that we can then put into our clients' gardens. Now I'm probably going to go back to cutting willow again, so hopefully see you next time. This afternoon, for the first time, it stopped raining and there is a glimmer of sun coming through the hazel across on my far side, and all you can hear are the birds if I'm quiet. Absolutely stunning.